It's also about like being really thoughtful and intentional when you're at the shops. So when you see that thing that's on sale that is pretty, but you don't need it, maybe it's about saying no. And so the
So,
less stuff you bring in, the easier it is.
hi there, and a warm welcome to the Habit Nerd podcast. I'm Dr. Bree Hearn, host and general nerd about all things habits. Over my 20 plus years working as a writer, educator, researcher, keynote speaker, and coach, I've realized that habits influence everything from our health to our productivity and even our relationships. It was Aristotle, in fact, who said we become what we repeatedly do. On this podcast, you'll learn from inspiring experts as they share the habits and systems that help them live happily, healthily, and to achieve enormous success in their chosen fields. Thanks for being here. I do hope that you enjoy the episode. Hi there, Habit Nerds, and welcome to today's episode of the Habit Nerd podcast. Now, I'm delighted to welcome my guest today. Her name is Amy Revell. Now, Amy is a decluttering and an organizing expert. Now, listen to this. I love this story. The Art of Decluttering, which is Amy's business, started back in 2014 when Amy helped out a local school mum to declutter and reorganize her house over the school holidays. As other people saw this transformation, word spread across friends and then friends of friends, and Amy found herself developing a thriving business. Amy wrote her first book in 2015 that was titled Simply Organised, and then in 2017 she started the Art of Decluttering podcast, which I am a fan of. Now, the Art of Decluttering is Australia's leading and most well-known decluttering and organising business, with teams that service Melbourne, Gippsland and surrounds, as well as providing virtual sessions and online courses all across the world. Welcome, Amy, and thanks for joining me on the Habit Nerd podcast.
Thanks for having me, Brie.
All right, let's dive into our questions. Amy, I always start with a similar question for all of our guests, and that is, what is a habit of yours that you are most proud of?
I love this question because I was having a think, and as I kind of unraveled it in my mind, I'm like, I have so many habits, most of which I often don't even realize are habits until I go, oh yeah, I don't even have to think about that thing. That's what I do. But the part that I really loved was what is the habit that I'm most proud of? And I actually think for me, it's a habit that is probably the biggest habit I'm always trying to teach my clients and my community. And it's don't put it down, put it away.
Okay.
And so I think it's a habit that I have just worked hard at over the years and now just naturally do. So what it looks like is when I come in from seeing a client, I put my work kit straight away. I take my boots off and I put those away, and I'll take my jacket off and I'll put that in the wash. So everything kind of goes back to its home as I'm finished with it. So what that means is I don't have a desk that has everything just kind of dumped on it, or the kitchen table is always clear. There's nothing on the floor. And I think that habit is a gift to myself in the moment because it feels good when you actually execute a task. But then the future self of Amy loves that I have this habit nailed.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you said that it's something that you don't even have to think about anymore, which is how we would characterize a habit, being completely embedded, a part of your identity. But we know that habits don't really stick until there's a system behind them in place. So how do you make sure? So when this was an early iteration of this habit, how do you think you made sure that happened? What were some of the systems that you had in place?
The biggest system, and we might talk about more of this in detail later, is about everything having a home.
Okay.
Because if I have to make decisions about where those things belong, make a decision every time I walk in the door, where's my work bag live? Where do my shoes belong? Where do the dirty clothes belong? Where do I hang my keys? If I had to make a decision at each point, that would be so much work, and my tiny little brain would just explode and I wouldn't do any of it. So actually having homes for everything means that when I come in, I just go into automatic mode. I don't have to think, oh, where should I put my wallet today when I get home? The beauty of that too is that the habit is reinforced at the other end of the day when I'm getting up in the morning and leaving. I don't have to look for my keys or I don't have to look for my work bag because I've done the habit the night before. And the payoff is not just in like a clear space, but when I go to grab stuff, I'm like, grab, also habit out the door.
Yeah, so it's really releasing that cognitive energy, isn't it? It's really the system is making it habitual, as we say, and there's no need to clog up your brain with unnecessary thinking or decision making. I can really relate to that. There's sometimes at my house, I've folded the washing and I have two daughters. Now, one of the daughters, the pile of washing doesn't get put away as quickly as the other one does, even if I'm the one putting the washing away. And it's because some of those things, I don't know where they go.
Yeah.
So there is a barrier there. So that's a very clear, and only now that you've said that, I've been able to identify that's exactly what the problem is. It's that because she's a little bit older and I don't have as much agency over her space as I do over the younger one,
Yes.
there's a barrier there for me. Where does that go? If I put that in the wrong place when I get into her bedroom, am I going to be able to find the spot? So it's almost too hard basket. So I also really connect with that idea. I wonder whether that has a flow-on effect to other areas of your life, that methodology. For me, I'm connecting with that in terms of email. Like, don't open the email if you don't have time to do something with it, because having to think, where does that go? I can't answer that question at this moment. There's too many steps. Then it just becomes mental clutter. And then it sort of weighs me down. So I can certainly see the link to physically putting things away in their spot as soon as you get somewhere really would have a positive impact over other areas of your life as well. Does that feel true for me to make that link?
Absolutely. And I think some of the barriers to executing kind of a home for everything. So sometimes the issue, like if we go to your daughter's clothes, sometimes the issue is a systems issue. So you don't know where it belongs or there isn't a home for it. So pick up a pair of bathers, you're like, does this go with undies and socks? Does it go with school stuff? Because she's going to go to school swimming lessons. Like, where do the bathers go? But sometimes it's purely a quantity issue and you're like, I know where the bathers go. That's the drawer they go in, but there's already, everything's full and I don't have space to put it away. And so you kind of, that also is helpful as you start to be inquisitive about, like, why is this habit not working in this space? Is it a systems problem? Do I need to have a home? Or do I actually just need to clear out some stuff? And then when you're talking about emails, like, you're just speaking to my little heart. One of the things that I find is if I don't have time to deal with the email, I'll do the bare minimum, which is I'll tag the category. So in my email inbox, you know, as business owners, we get a lot of emails. So I just have them categorized. And it's so helpful that I feel like I've taken one active step.
Yeah.
So even though I haven't been able to execute replying to the email, finding the information, like just taking that little, I've put it in its home. I know that it's under podcast, or I know it's under client, or I know it's under the accountant. Then you can actually go, great, when I've got time, I can deal with it.
Yeah, and you can deal with it with a little bit of a structure, which gives you a bit of confidence that you're going to be able to, almost the first hurdle's already jumped over. So you're going to be more likely to get to the second one. And yeah, I completely can relate to that. And do you think that going back to those 3 reasons that my daughter's clothes going in her bedroom are a barrier for me, do you think there's power in that curiosity about which one of the 3 it is, and cultivating an awareness for yourself so that you can then solve that problem?
Yeah, because I think our initial response is we will solve it as if it's a systems problem.
Mm.
And often when we're talking about clutter, it's much better to first of all think, could this be a quantity problem? Because often it is. And then if you're like, no, actually the quantity that I have, you know, we might live by the beach, so she has 4 pairs of swimmers, or actually I live in suburban around a city and we maybe go to the pool once a fortnight, 1 pair of bathers is plenty. When you get kind of curious about what's the quantity issue here, because the system might be just fine.
Yeah, that's so.
And often, Brie, you look at our pantries, the system's pretty fine. It's actually just that we've got too much stuff
How
for our
much of it-
wardrobes.
Yeah, that is such an important point to make. And also that almost gives me a sense of like calm in my body, because solving a quantity problem is much easier. You know, getting at the op shop bag and putting it in there is a much easier solve for me than the systems issue, which is, you know, might be multi-step or might be more complex. I am going to have a conversation with my daughter this afternoon when I get home about, do we think there's too much in the drawer for the socks or for the underwear, which I can tell you right now, I think there is. And then that is part of the barrier for, you know, putting the clothes away. Absolutely. It's a quantity issue.
Yeah.
I mean, That's such a helpful, practical way to look at things already. I knew as soon as I found your Instagram, I knew there would be so much gold in this episode. Amy, organizing and decluttering can seem like two things. It can seem like both a really attractive prospect because we all want that minimalist, calm, decluttered sense in our lives. And then, as we've said, in our brains and in our bodies as a flow and effect. But it's also an overwhelming task. This is a really big question, but where can somebody start?
I think this is really true. I think intrinsically, we usually feel better in a less cluttered space. Some people like more things than others. I think that's variable. But generally speaking, if you're in a space that's chaotic, that has a flow and effect to how you feel. And so knowing where to start when you can establish, yes, this is where I want to head, but how do I start? I think it depends on whether you're kind of a cognitive person or an action person.
Okay.
So if you think of my husband and I, he thinks about things before he does anything. He thinks before he speaks. He thinks before he acts. He thinks before he purchases. He lets it kind of mull around in his brain. And I'm a true ADHDer where I act and then I think.
Right.
And so I think, so for him, if I was talking to someone who's quite cerebral and wants to understand the why before they do something, which will often for them lay a really strong foundation. If they just jump into doing things, they're not going to have anything to anchor it to. And so for that person, I'd be saying, okay, let's work out your motivation. Like, why do you want a home that functions better? Is it because you're time poor and you know that it will be quicker to clean, quicker to tidy up when the kids go to bed? Do you want it to be visitor friendly, where someone can just knock on the door or pop in and you're out and you're like, come back to mine, and you don't then
It's
have
ready to go.
Oh, excuse that, let me get there 5 minutes early and all of that. It might be that someone's dealing with a chronic illness and they need, for the moments that they're unable to maintain the house, that it's easy for everyone else to kind of step up and do it. So the motivation in that case, I think, is really important.
Yeah.
Because once you understand that, that will be the foundation for your decluttering and organizing. And often that will kind of unlock the action.
Interesting.
And then there's people like me who are like, just give me the thing to do and I will do it.
Right.
And so I think when that's you, a way that you can just get started is don't worry about trying to understand all your reasons and your motivations. Just grab a garbage bag and walk around and try and get one category. So you might start with, I'm just going to get recycling. So are there boxes? Have I got deliveries that I haven't crushed the boxes, or I'm keeping shoe boxes that I don't need to? Or grab a bag and go, I'm going to do landfill. Where's the rubbish? Where's the stuff that can just leave? Or grab a bag and do your donations. So rather than feeling like you have to do all this pre-work, grab a bag and walk around and go, I'm going to fill a bag with items that can go to the op shop today. And so for that person, that will feel motivating and that will build their decluttering muscle. But for the cerebral person, setting their vision and their motivation will also build their decluttering muscle. So I think it's, even if you're not sure which of those camps you fall in, try one and see. Like, go, does it feel good and right if I just pick up a bag and start wandering around? Or do I need to kind of have a think about this and listen to a podcast, read a book? Do I need to understand it before I take action? But ultimately, Brie, we just want just a step forward is the right, whether it's thinking or doing, like just keep moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful, Amy, and I can tell why you were so highly engaged, because understanding and honoring people's nuances and understanding, that people think differently. That's what makes you the expert here and not me the expert, because I deliberately went to everyone wants a clear space because it makes us feel better. But you must understand after, working with hundreds and thousands of people that motivations vary and that situations greatly vary. Is it fair to say, because I think that's a really smart way to start, why is it that you would like a decluttered space? Why would you like clarity in your space? I think that is a reasonable question for most people to think about. Even if you were to give them a few of the examples that you've just given me, I'm sure they connect to sort of one more than the other three, for example. So my question is, can it be both? Can it be to have a think about why this would be important to you and then to just take the first step?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it can be the opposite too. As so you can have a think and then go, all right, I'm just going to grab a bag and keep going. Or how I would probably do it for my brain is I would be doing it. And as I'm doing it, I'm thinking, how am I feeling? And it might be that I'm feeling more engaged, or I'm feeling lighter, or I'm feeling hopeful, or I'm feeling creative, or I'm feeling connected as I do it. And so you
Oh,
start to feel, what is this doing for my psyche? Like,
mm.
it's more than just a physical act. It's never, ever just about the stuff. If it was just
Oh,
about the stuff, we would all be able to do it with our eyes closed. But it's not. Like,
that is so
there's
true.
emotions, and there's history, and there's decisions, and there's fears, and there's so many things that go into our relationship with our stuff.
Mm.
And that's why it's the important thing is get a start, because you probably won't know all those things before you get started, because they
Mm.
won't have surfaced yet.
Mm.
We often talk about in decluttering is we step on accidental landmines. So I might pick up what looks like a falling apart teddy that is missing an eye and has like dog slobber on it. And I might
Mm.
say to a client, hey, can this go in the bin?
Mm.
And instinctively they burst into tears, and they're like,
Right.
actually, the story behind that is,
Means it needs to stay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not about the stuff. It's always
Mm.
about going, what's the person? How do they like to live in their space? What's their motivation? How can they maintain it? What's their capability? Like, it's such
Oh,
interesting
fascinating.
thing to discover with people.
Fascinating. And highly valued, I would imagine, because if you're going to step on a landmine, that's really vulnerable for people, isn't it? That's
Huge.
really,
Yep.
if I can imagine there would be kind of surface level stories and then things would go quite deep,
Mm-hmm.
and then I know there's obviously, actual mental illness around things like hoarding, but
Yep.
yeah, that's a really good example of like the teddy, because to you or me, you'd say, oh my God, throw this teddy out. It's
Yeah.
disgusting,
Yeah.
or it's carrying germs, or, why have you got it there? But the landmine for you, honoring where that's come from. The other thing I really like what you just said, Amy, is helping people put language around how they feel
Mm.
once they've started. And all of those words that you just gave, they make complete sense, but without somebody almost empowering you with what those words could be, once you've got the garbage bag and you're walking around to really check in and say, I feel this now,
Mm.
is good feedback as to whether to continue or not, or whether to gain the motivation that, okay, maybe 10 minutes for today is enough,
Yeah.
but I've got that feedback now that tomorrow, when I get that other 10-minute window, I'll keep doing that. And the other thing I just want to really connect with here is this, the idea that once you start on the way becomes clear. Like, once
Yes.
you've got to start on the
Yep.
road, and then it's almost like there's that hiking analogy, like you don't really know where you're going. The path opens up once you've taken the first few
Yeah.
steps. So I would imagine with some people, it's holding their hand to take the first couple of steps and then handing the power over to them about where that takes them based on
Yeah.
all the nuance that you've just taken us through.
Absolutely. And sometimes that experience for people, so we'll have people that will say, I feel like a weight's been lifted. I feel like I can see clearly. I feel like a veil's been lifted. I feel like I've lost kilos. I feel like I've lost years. I feel like I've re-engaged, like really forward thinking, hopeful feelings.
Mm.
And then there's other people that say that felt really traumatic, or that
Right,
felt really scary, or I felt really unsafe, or
right.
that felt uncomfortable. I didn't like anything about that. But often, even if they're experiencing those, what we would call often those negative feelings,
Mm.
they still want to keep going because they have the motivation and they know the vision of why they're doing it. But I think
Interesting.
it's important to acknowledge that stuff, because
Yeah,
otherwise it can be even more traumatic if you
because
just keep
then
pushing through.
yeah, and then also you're almost unkind to yourself throughout the process. Why can't I just do this?
Yeah,
Your negative self-talk, like you said you wanted a
absolutely.
tidy space, now you're tidying and you're crying about tidying. Like, what's
That's
wrong
right.
with
What's wrong
you?
with you? And
Yeah,
that's absolutely not the case. And sometimes the hard things help us understand ourselves and give us breakthrough. Like we will work with a couple and work through their home and do all these things, and they'll contact us and say, what we didn't tell you is we're on the verge of divorce. And actually removing the clutter of the home allowed us to have more honest conversations. And you're like, now I'm not suggesting that decluttering
Saves marriages.
That's right. However,
However,
the evidence that I have seen over 11 years is that mental health, marriages, family dynamics, all of that can be positively impacted, even when that's not the purpose. It's almost like this amazing side effect that you're like, I couldn't have anticipated that, but jeepers, it was worth it.
oh wow. That's so lovely for you to get that feedback about
Yeah.
your work. And
Yeah.
I can imagine, it's almost like that's why I loved that story in your bio that I said at the start about how people saw the one school mum and how it wouldn't be so much her clean house. It probably more would be how she was feeling and how she was operating in the world that people find contagious and then
Yes.
want a little bit of that. And I can also imagine that's such a powerful thing that you said about if it was just about the stuff, that's a magic bullet. We've all got, most of us are lucky enough to be able-bodied enough to have two arms and to be able to walk around and use a garbage bag. That's not the issue. The nuance is getting curious and self-aware about what it is. So my question to go back to was, what's one small thing they can do? So the first thing you said was grab a garbage bag and choose a category. So what would be some of the categories? You said recycling, you said landfill.
Recycling, landfill, it could be donations. It could just be one of the habits I used to do when my kids were little is on a Sunday afternoon, as you're kind of doing the prepare for the week ahead, is I would grab a washing basket and I would just start in the lounge room, and anything that was in the lounge room that didn't belong there, I'd put in the basket, and then I would just move to the next room. And in the next room, anything that was in the basket that belonged there, I'd put away. And anything in that room that didn't belong in that room, I'd put in the basket. And I would just wander around the house, and it wasn't stressful, and I wasn't yelling, and it just was this habit of reset that I really liked. Like that can be a way that you're saying, okay, I don't have the capacity to make big decisions.
Yeah.
I don't have the capacity to say which clothes has my 2-year-old outgrown, but I do have the capacity to put stuff away. So sometimes it can just be a matter of that. Sometimes it can be saying, I'm going to find 10 things that I can donate. And it doesn't matter what category it is in the house. We once did this when the kids were probably early teens. So we're in the school holidays, and I said, all right, today's the 300 day. And this is not what teenage boys wanted to hear when they woke up in the school holidays. But I was like, by the end of the day, we're going to have decluttered 300 things.
Wow. That's a fun challenge.
We created this, like, it's a lot. The number was probably a little bit too ambitious. We got there, but in the end, the kids were like counting, okay, we're putting away the cricket stumps, and there's 3 stumps.
I was going to say individual Lego pieces. Yeah.
So they got a bit, but maybe it's about kind of setting this big goal.
Yeah. And almost gamifying it with a number. That's kind of fun too.
Yeah, so there's lots of different ways that you can start. It might just be putting, a recycling bag at the bottom of your wardrobe. So when you try something on and you're like, oh, I don't like it, doesn't fit, doesn't feel nice, and you go to put it back on the coat hanger, instead you put it in the bag, and it can just be one of those Coles bags in the bottom of a wardrobe, like little steps that you can integrate into your habits. You understand habit stacking like no one else. Those things can be really helpful.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. And I also think the other thing that behavioral science would teach us, so 300 is an ambitious number, and that's why...
It's very ambitious.
I know, and we're laughing about that number. 10 is really achievable for everybody. But what behavioral science would teach us is if you say 10, you'll probably get 20, even if you don't... Like, we are very good at tricking our brains into just 2, just 3, and then it's like, just go for a walk to the letterbox. You know you're going to walk around the block, but there's just something to be said for just put your runners on and see where you go, or just 10 things.
So much when we're decluttering with clients. We will say, all right, let's go through the bookshelf. Are there 10 books we can get rid of? They're like, I don't think I can get 10. They go, that's fine. Let's go with 3.
Yeah.
And then once they've done 3, I go, okay, is there another 3? And all of a sudden we're at 15 books.
Yeah.
And they feel like they've only ever gotten rid of 3 because it's just 3 at a time.
Yes. And I think that's the other thing here, just chunk it right down.
Yeah. Make it easy for yourself. And then one of the questions that I think we can all ask on any category that we're decluttering is when you feel like you've reached the maximum, ask yourself, is there just one more? And that question, I will say that to clients almost every day. And that question will often get them to kind of, the one more gives them permission to say, I didn't do it thoroughly the first time, or I missed something out, or I wasn't honest with myself. And they will sometimes get 6 or 7 things and go, yeah, you're right.
Oh, I love
But
that.
is there just one more? And sometimes the answer might be no. And
Yeah.
that's fine. It means you've been really thorough, or you've made as many decisions as you have available for that day. But some of these little questions that you can ask to really be inquisitive and trick your brain into it's safe to let go of something else.
It's safe. I think that's what it is. It's about
Yeah,
signaling to your nervous system that you're okay. I also
correct.
really, really honor how respectful that question is from someone like you. Is there one more? As opposed to, come on, there's got to be one more.
Yeah,
You know,
correct.
like just flipping that judgment because, you
Yeah,
know, and even asking yourself with a little bit of self-compassion, is there one more? Like, is
yeah,
there one more dress that doesn't make me feel good in this wardrobe that I haven't worn for 15 years and just one more? And
yeah,
probably the answer is even the empowerment of asking a question means that question needs an answer. That answer could be no, as you
correct.
say, but it could be
Yeah.
yes.
And
Yeah,
there's
that's
full
so
respect if the
powerful.
answer is no. Full
Yes.
respect. But it's a good question to ask.
Yeah. Oh, goodness, Amy, you're such a gift. I can see why you're so highly engaged.
You're so
Now,
lovely.
what about maintaining an organized space seems mostly, and you can correct me absolutely as the expert here, but mostly about good, effective systems.
Yep.
If that's true, can you give us a few of your best?
Yes. So I think it is true. And I think there's an and to it.
Okay.
So I think the effective systems are essential in order to move to maintenance. So I teach a system where we talk about systems, and what you build on top of systems is always habits.
Okay.
So the system is there to support the habits.
Right.
So a good system on its own will not keep your house organized. However, a good system combined with some really great habits, absolutely you'll nail it.
Okay. Give
So
me an example.
my favorite is a home for everything and everything in its home, which we talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
That can be a really tricky thing to start off with. So in my house, I know where every single item is. If you asked me to find something, I'd be able to find it within, let's say, 90 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And if I couldn't find it in 90 seconds, I would have 99% confidence I didn't own it. So it's not
Interesting.
like I try and look for it and then it's like, oh, I guess it could be elsewhere. No, that's where it belongs. And if it's not there, we don't
We
own
don't
it
have
anymore.
it.
I've probably decluttered it.
Yeah.
However, that's a really ambitious goal. So what might be a home for everything and everything in its home is about to starting off with quite broad categories.
Mm-hmm.
So I might be starting off with a category of what room does it belong in, or what cupboard does it belong in, rather than which container within that cupboard and which
Mm.
order and is it labeled?
Mm.
Because that can sometimes just put you off. You
Mm.
get so caught up in the micro of like, I have to create a specific home for the buttons.
Mm.
Is it okay that the buttons just live in the sewing kit for now and the sewing kit lives in this space?
Mm.
So I think that home for everything and everything in its home creates this incredible synchronicity in the way that you use your home functionally, and
Mm.
also the way that it looks. So it's not cluttered, it doesn't have stuff everywhere.
Mm.
And I think once you build on top of that, and we go back to the very start where the habit that I feel most proud of is the don't put it down, put it away. And
Mm.
that's only possible because everything has a home. So I think there's those two work really beautifully together, and they build on top of each other and they work together really well. I think you can kind of step away before that and think one of the really great habits of maintaining an organized and decluttered home is about stopping the incoming flow.
Mm-hmm.
And so that might be about just saying no to things that are free. Someone wants to give you a hand me
Yeah.
down, something that you see that you're like, oh, that's on the side of the road, and I kind of that could work at our house. It's also about like being really thoughtful and intentional when you're at the shops. So when you see that thing that's on sale that is pretty, but you don't need it, maybe it's about saying no. And so the
So,
less stuff you bring in, the easier it is.
yeah, so Amy, can I just ask that question there? Is it helpful to say there would be no home for that thing if I bought it home?
Yeah, so a great question that we often get clients to ask is when you bring that home, where will it go and is
Mm.
there room?
Mm.
So where will it go? It will go in my wardrobe, but is there room for another jacket?
Mm.
I'd be pushing it. I'd have to get rid of something. Great. Is there a jacket that you're willing to get rid of?
And if there's a jacket that they're willing to get rid of, are they allowed to buy the new one?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's
Listen to
no
me. Are they
ultimate.
allowed?
Yeah, that's
Do
right.
you
There's
let
no
them?
there's no rules, but that is a really helpful way of thinking
Mm.
because it allows you to create homes for things
Yes.
intentionally.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I think that's really helpful. I've never actually thought about it like that before. Certainly, I have heard someone said this years ago, my goodness, this is gold for me when I'm shopping. Don't buy something if the price is the best thing about it, because I'm such a bargain shopper. And if there's just something in one of my favorite clothing stores that is a really good price, despite whether I want it or not, the price is the most attractive thing. I don't need it. So, but I really do like that idea, particularly with bigger things, kitchen appliances or kids' toys or things. If there's no spot for it, that's going to create a problem for me later. So later me, future me will be grateful that I didn't get that thing, I didn't bring that thing home. And I think that's a lovely boundary too to set for yourself. Thank you for offering me those hand-me-downs. We're not going to take them at this stage. So, give them to somebody else, or, thank you, but no thank you, because we're so, in a cost of living, I suppose it is kind of attractive to say, yeah, actually, thank you for your generosity. I will take those things. But it's creating another problem, isn't it? If you bring it home and, there's nowhere to put it, or that you have to find a spot.
Really helpful questions when you're out shopping. Like, do I have something that already performs this function?
Mm,
Like, are you buying another white t-shirt when you have three at home that
yeah.
are perfectly fine?
Yes, highly likely that you are, if you're
Yeah,
like me.
highly likely.
Yeah.
And you can ask things like, what would I do if I don't buy this? So if I don't buy the food processor, what will that mean? What's the implications? Okay, I've lived without it so far. Is it going to drastically change the way that I food prep? Maybe yes, and so it is a really good investment. Or maybe it's like, to be honest, I probably would only use it 4 times a year. And so you
Mm,
start to get like this whole picture of the product. It's not
mm,
just about looking at it at the shop and getting the dopamine hit. As you
mm,
said, it's about,
mm,
do I have a home for it? How am I going to maintain it? Where does it live? How am I going to use it? Do I have something else? Does it need to replace something?
mm.
And that can be a really helpful thought habit to keep your clutter low.
Yeah, I love that one. So the system you've just taken us through is that everything has a home for everything. Are there any others?
Yeah, one of the things that I think can be very helpful for our brains is we like to, as humans, categorize things. Categories, we categorize animals, plants, we
Mm,
categorize items in a shop. Like
mm.
categories make sense in our
Yeah,
brains.
so true.
And so in our homes, it's therefore logical that categories also make sense.
Mm,
And I think when you're creating homes for items, you can sometimes get into the habit of like, I would just shove it all in. Or how do I know when enough's enough? How do I know when I have too many dinner plates? Like, is 20 too many, or is 30 too many, or is 6 too many? Like, how do I know what that number is? And so if you can use space really intentionally, so often you want to think about like what are the natural limits of your space. So your
mhm,
house, the big natural limit. You
mhm,
can't fit more in your house than you can fit in your house. But then
mm,
in your kitchen, it's then the space of the kitchen or the space of the cupboard or the
mm,
space of the drawer.
mm,
And then within that, you might go, okay, we allowed this much for plastics, or we allowed this. Because what often happens is we continue to acquire and we continue to expand the space that plastics take up. We end up with all these plastics that we don't need,
mm.
and we're not in the habit of curation. So if we say this is the space, this is the drawer that the plastics live in, if we get too many, you just naturally have to curate. Like, you don't have to make a decision about, well, can I just let it expand? You're like, no, this is the space and this is the plastics. And if I get too many, I have to get rid of some.
Right.
And so I think the habit of using natural limits,
Yeah, so the space dictates how much you have and how
yeah,
much you can,
yeah.
functionally fit.
And
Yeah.
you get to decide how you allocate that space, but you only
Mm,
have the space that you have. You only have the
yeah.
wardrobe that you have. You only have the bathroom storage that you have. And so allowing that to also be a natural dictator can be a
Mm,
really great way of building those good, effective systems that we were talking about,
yeah. Yeah, that's
because
lovely.
the systems integrate with how you use the space. Like, they don't sit separately.
Do you know what an analogy that I find helpful there is, when you go on holidays and it's such a freeing feeling to
Yeah.
only have a few things in your suitcase,
Yeah.
because you are dictated by the space
Yeah.
in the suitcase. So that is a curated space that you're using.
Yeah.
And it just takes away that, mental fatigue of getting dressed or, using things. And then you go home and every time, why do I have so much stuff? Every time I think that. Because obviously you survive however many weeks on holidays, and I know you're living differently, but yeah, I think curating the space is really smart. Something you haven't said, Amy, is do you advise people to work a room at a time or a section at a time in terms of decluttering? Because you haven't said that, and I'm wondering why.
It changes for different people. What I would encourage people not to do is what you see on TV, which is we're going to pull everything out of a space, lay it out everywhere, and go through it. Now, when you're working with a professional organizer, if I'm with a client, I will happily do that with a client because A, I'm not overwhelmed by it. B, my time management skills are excellent. And so I know how to judge a space and how much to pull out and can kind of keep an eye on that.
And what is feasible within 2 hours to do, yes.
And because you've also set aside the time for when you're working with someone. But if you get the phone call from the school and you've just pulled every item of your clothing out on the bed and they're like, your kid's got a fever, you're going to regret that desperately at 10 p.m. that night when you want to climb into bed.
That is so true. That is so true. I've got this colleague, he told me this story and I said to him, this was years ago and I still remember, I said, I feel sick about that story. He said he decided too late one night to clean out his wardrobe. And it was maybe 8 p.m. and he decided to pull out everything from his wardrobe and put it on his bed. And then he got so tired, and it was midnight or 1 a.m., that he just scooped it all onto the floor and got into his bed. And I said to him, I feel physically sick that work that you had started with the best of intentions, the feeling of failure and like shame that you didn't do it, but then waking up in the morning and I just pictured him like swinging his feet around and putting them all over this pile of stuff that then is the next day's problem.
Yeah, and worse than it started off.
Yes. Oh, we were laughing, but he said, Brie, it's not funny. And I was like, no, it's not funny. And he's
not the first person or the last person
I can imagine. Okay, so that's a really great tip. So don't do what they do on Space Invaders or whatever and just pull out and make a huge mountain.
Yeah, what they do is very well planned with excellent experts and it works well.
And it's also good TV because the bigger the pile, people are interested in that.
Yeah, I love watching all of those things.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it, you might go, all right, I'm going to do it with my jeans. And so you just put all of your jeans onto your bed.
Categories within.
Okay, quick. Which ones don't fit? Which ones have worn through? Which ones am I never going to wear again? If you want to kind of get rid of the items that you're not using or are ever going to wear again. And then you look and go, okay, I've got 7 pairs left. Is that a reasonable amount for the life that I live and the space that I have? And then you can make a decision, okay, I probably should get rid of 1 or 2 more pairs. And then you put the jeans back and then you get out your shorts. And you do your shorts, and then you do your skirts, and then you do your shirts. And so by categorizing it and chunking it, you're actually making it so much more manageable rather than it just becomes this big pile.
And also you can have wins, can't you? You can have small wins because if all you've got time for is the jeans and all the energy you've got is for the jeans, that's a win and you've done the jeans. As opposed to walking away with the shame that my friend had that, why did I do that? Now I hate myself. Now I've created a problem.
Yeah. And until you can see the full category, you can't make a wise choice. If you pull everything out, you find a pair of jeans and think, I need a pair of jeans, not knowing there's 6 other pairs in the pile.
So true. Okay, so that's a great tip. So pull things out in categories and look at them against each other.
Yeah. And do that
and
in
also,
your bathroom,
that's where you
everywhere.
find the 3 white T-shirts that you forgot you had.
Yeah, completely. And you go, I didn't realize I had this many blazers. I like wearing blazers. I'm going to bring them to where I can see them. I'm going to use them. But it works with toys. It works with linen. It works with kitchen appliances. If you go category by category, you see what you have. Okay. You know what space you have to put them back. You can make really good choices.
Yeah.
And then it's maintainable. It's easier to unstack the dishwasher. It's easier to put the washing on. It's easier to put the clothes away. It's easier to pack the toys up. All of that has a flow on and full circle back to how do I get the habit of keeping it organized? Well, I've made some really good choices along the way.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And it does definitely endorse that point that you made about categories, that we like patterns, that we like things in categories. I think that's a really excellent system. Amy, I'm going to ask you one more question, and I haven't prepared this question for you, so I hope you don't mind that I'm going to ask it. What is it that would make a client call you? Like, what is it that is when? So I'm hoping people with this episode can connect with all the kind of bite-sized small strategies and go and do some of them this afternoon or,
Right.
tomorrow or on the weekend as they can fit it in and as their energy allows. But when someone really hits the button and says, I need some help, what is it that tips them over the edge?
Yeah. So it can be the rock bottom experience of like, my kid was meant to go to camp and they missed camp because we couldn't find a sleeping bag and we were up all night and the kid was too tired and then we couldn't find their camping stuff. And so it can be a what seems like, oh my gosh, the impact of the clutter has reached a climax and I can't handle it anymore.
Right. And often is there a story like that, like the
Yes.
sleeping bag story?
Yeah.
Wow.
Or it's, I've slept on the couch for the last month because my clothing has taken over my bed.
Wow.
Or it might be a lifestyle change. So I'm downsizing, we're combining a couple of households, we've had a new baby. It can be we've got a new house. So it can be some of that, like everything is changing
Yeah.
and they understand like whatever we deal with now is going to make the next step so much easier.
Yeah.
Often it is the I've just had enough and if I could do it, I would have done it. Surely there's someone that can help me with this.
Right. Yeah. So it's just knowing when to wave the white flag and get some
Yeah.
support. Yeah.
It's very rare that someone would contact a professional organizer who hasn't tried to solve the problem themselves.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And usually what they've done is tried to solve a systems problem. So
Right.
they've usually gone and bought all the containers, they've
Yeah.
bought storage, they've labeled things, but they haven't dealt with the quantity problem or they haven't dealt with kind of the vision of why am I doing this problem.
Yeah. Love
And so
that.
they're like, I have tried everything. Why can't this work? Surely there's an answer. And
Yeah.
so that can just be that increasing level of frustration of like, this isn't like I just have to ask for some help with this, which is how people feel when they exercise on their own or they
Or
try
have
and manage
any
their
problem
budget
they
on
want to
their own.
solve.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. It's because, and that's why coaches and mentors are so highly valuable
yeah.
because, there is contextual information there and you're an expert for a reason. So, you're able to help people in their point of need. One last question. I said that was my last question. I'm good at saying one
You're
last
allowed.
question, and then there's another question. Um, Something I'm not great at is I have got, and I think it is a helpful paradigm in my head, but it's sort of sometimes I can take it a bit too far, is that I equate being able to focus on my work or focus on things at home as contingent on a tidy space.
Hmm.
So I will say things to myself like, and sometimes working from home can be problematic because I'll drop my kids to school and I'll have, a research report to write or I'll, need to do some kind of deep work. And I've got this paradigm in my head, which I think is actually quite true, that once the space is tidy, I will have mental clarity and I'll be able to focus.
Mm.
But it's almost like when I pull on that string, I take
Yes.
it too far.
Yeah.
So I suppose my question is, and then this is a problem that I have and something that I talk to clients about is that we've got like an energy envelope or like a spending limit of our energy on any given day. And cognitive work takes up a lot of that. So
It
if we've
does.
quote unquote wasted that energy on things that are not the thing that's the most important for that morning, then we have a little bit of shame around that. I know I certainly
Yeah.
do. So I suppose my question is, A, am I not alone or am I alone? And do you have any strategies for when enough is enough?
Yes, really, really good questions, Bree. And you are definitely not alone. You're not
Oh,
even
good.
alone amongst the two of us.
Okay, good. This is
So I
such a
think
support group, this interview. I
yeah,
really, I really needed this. Yes.
I think it's really natural. So when we have a clear and uncluttered flat surface to work on, so a desk, a table, a kitchen table, a bench, wherever you're working, you have increased productivity and increased creativity.
Mm,
So your brain is not trying to attend to all of the things that are screaming out, quickly, you need to sign that form, fill that out, return that, write that birthday card, whatever it is. You actually have that clear space and you can think and process.
and
I
I
think
do know this, hence my motivation in the first place.
yes,
Yes, but
the question is whether the flat surface in the laundry is directly affecting your ability to write the report or is it the easier thing to do?
Oh, that is such a cheeky and good question, Amy.
I ask myself this all the time. Am I doing that because it feels good instantly? So for
Yeah.
me,
Will it give me a quicker dopamine hit? Yeah.
100%. Yeah, it's much more rewarding to quickly go into the kids' room and pick anything up off the floor that they've dropped there in the morning than it is for me to write a client report, which I know takes a lot of spoons for me, a lot of that mental energy.
Yes.
And so sometimes I just have to do the hard thing. But in saying that, one of the habits that I have is of a night I'll reset my space. So I'll
Okay.
reset my desk. I
Yeah.
only keep one pen on my desk because
Okay.
I know that if I have 5 pens available, they will all be on the desk somewhere.
Mm.
So I simplify my desk as much as possible. One
Yeah,
notebook,
that's really great tip.
one pen,
Yeah. Because who
nothing
needs 6
else.
notebooks?
I don't need a
Then things get
stapler on my
lost.
desk. I
Yeah.
don't need sticky notes. I don't need any of that.
What do I use? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so what's really highly valuable for my desk, because then when you do get home from the drop off or you do get up in the morning, you sit at your desk, because you've kind of reduced all of those hurdles already.
Mm.
And sometimes, yeah, it can, like, I love decluttering. I literally do it all the time.
Well,
But
you're in the right business.
yeah, it can be a distraction from the things that I want to
Need
do,
to be
because you can go
done.
perfectionism
Yeah.
over productivity, which
Yeah.
can be a challenge for me personally, at
Yeah.
least.
And 100% me too. And I think perfectionism is really procrastination with a cuter outfit, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
that's a great way to say it.
yeah. So, oh my goodness, I'm going to remember that tomorrow because this is a thing. I will get the short-term dopamine hit if I unpack the dishwasher or if I hang out a load of washing. I will get a deeper sense of pride if I do the hard thing. Understanding that. So really this has been 50% counseling session for me, Amy, because often it's like I just need an expert to endorse for me what deep down I'm avoiding, and I probably already know.
And you can't avoid that washing being put out, though, or the dishwasher being unstacked. So it is then about your prioritization of it, or saying, I'm going to get up 10 minutes earlier, or I'm going to engage the kids in the dishwasher, so that by the time I get back to my desk, those things are done and I have got that dopamine hit and I am feeling free. I don't feel like they're kind of, when you feel like something's hanging over you.
Totally.
So you don't want it hanging over you, because that often restricts you doing the thing you need to do. So
yeah, but my question was, when is enough enough? Like, I could continue with the housework until the cows come home and the report doesn't get started. And so I suppose you're helping me answer my question here. And I think that's a really smart reframe is, would the laundry help me with this report? No, it wouldn't. And the other thing is just my own reflection on the idea that our energy is finite. And if I waste it on the other things, then I'll be angry. I can do the washing at 5 p.m. when I'm tired. I can't really do the report 100%. When I'm tired. Yeah.
Can this wait till when it doesn't? Like,
and would it actually be smarter if I waited?
Correct.
Yeah, that's probably a more helpful reframe for me, because it would be the more intelligent thing to do it at 5 p.m. when my energy is waning and dinner's kind of on the stove anyway, so I might as well fold some washing while I'm waiting for that rather than do the report. Yeah, and setting up your desk the night before. I've heard that Laura May Martin, who's the Google productivity expert, she talks about being your own assistant. So like as if you're your own assistant, setting the space up so that the next morning you come in. And I think your own assistant wouldn't put 6 notebooks and 6 pens on the desk, would they? They put one and one because they'd think, what does Amy need in the morning? I need to support Amy. That's my job. So to kind of treat yourself like that assistant is...
That's a really smart way to frame it.
Yeah, I think I'll have to remember that for myself. Amy, this has been so hugely enlightening. You're such a joy to speak to. I can see, as I said, your skill set, but just the way you relate to people and the warmth that you must bring in their homes when you're doing this really important work for people of supporting them in decluttering. You're just a gem. And so I'm so delighted I've come across you. And I just want to say thank you for your time and all of your expertise this afternoon.
Oh, it's been so lovely. I hope it's helpful for lots of people.
No question, it has been 100%. Now, Amy, where can we find more of your great work? Where can people connect with you?
Just search the Art of Decluttering anywhere. Amazon, podcasting apps, Google, AI, the Art of Decluttering, you'll find the podcast, and then you'll be able to find our services. We've got a big Facebook community if you search for me on socials as well.
Oh,
So
I will
you'll
be
find all the
joining
things.
that. Yes. And just something I do want to endorse is the thing I love about your podcast, Amy, is going back to that idea of patterns and categories that we talked about before. Because you speak to different specific elements of decluttering, that really suits the bite-sized nature of my learning brain. So I
Yep.
can learn about one thing at a time,
Yes.
and make connections to decluttering that I didn't actually even exist, but once you hear them, they make so much sense. So yeah, I really want to direct my Habit Nerd listeners who are, typically high performing and want better habits. And I would
Yes.
imagine, that habits around health and well-being and that sort of thing are highly connected to the space that we live in. We are people who are connected to our place, aren't we? So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I can only guess that this episode will be hugely beneficial to the listeners like it has been for me. So another really big thanks to you, Amy.
Pleasure.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Habit Nerd. I hope you found some new inspiration, learned something new, or gained a fresh perspective. If you did enjoy the episode, I would be really grateful if you could please leave a 5-star review, as it helps the show get in the ears of new listeners, plus it should only take you 5 seconds. If you're keen for more tips and insights, then head over to Instagram and follow Habit Nerd.